Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Primetime Live here on Jess FM and Jess TV. Tonight, we are going to take a look at headlines from the local area, across the country, and of course, around the globe. As we continue today, we will look at an in-depth report on the film industry. Yes, part one of three that we'll be covering over the next several weeks. We're going to take a look at different regions and how they are trying to attract more blockbuster films, but also the smaller ones, such as documentaries and independent films, as well as commercial production. The industry is going through a bit of a reset, and we're going to be looking at that, as well as talking to people from the film industry in not only British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario, but also in New York, Georgia, and Los Angeles. And that, as I said, is a 3-week series that we're going to be covering every Thursday night at 8 p.m. here on Jess FM and Jess TV. So we hope that you get some interesting bits out of that. Don't forget also that you can contact us through WhatsApp, and you can dial in at 1-368-997-6741 so you can be a part of the conversation. If you have questions not only about the film and television production industry in Canada and the US, but if you have questions or topics that you would like to discuss about anything, we are open because you are a part of the show as much as we are. We appreciate you taking the time to watch and join us here on the program. Now, let's jump in, folks, to looking at the various stories that are making headlines around the world as we talk today. Also, of course, here in Lethbridge. Now, let's take a look at one big mess in traffic and something that's going to be impacting all of the folks in Lethbridge for the next foreseeable future. Now, this, of course, begins with a major disruption that's snarling the traffic and raising serious questions about the Lethbridge infrastructure. The Whoop Up Drive bridge is partially crippled, and the search for solutions is just beginning. As, of course, we know, I'm just going to adjust my mic there, folks, so bear with us one quick second. There we go. That should be better. That should give us a bit better sound, and we just keep working on it as we go on the fly, because nothing's more important than getting the sound of the show to you so you're not just seeing me mime the whole time. But as I said, we are looking at this mess in the Whoop Up Bridge, and it is crippled to some extent. And of course, this is the result of something that happened yesterday. Yes, a single miscalculation has triggered a citywide headache for thousands of Lethbridge commuters. The drive home today was even a test of patience, and the morning commute tomorrow will also be a promise of more of the same. Now, this is a result of yesterday's collision involving a semi-truck and the Whoop Up Drive bridge. Now, that forced lane closures on one of the city's two vital river crossings. As engineers conduct a delicate and complex assessment of the damage, drivers are being forced to navigate a new and frustrating reality. And we will be looking at that in just a few moments. And let's take it even further. Now, this was the scene, this was the result of an accident at 9:30 Wednesday morning, where the semi-truck transporting a heavy excavating piece of equipment, they were heading to a West Lethbridge construction site, and he made a wrong turn into the Indian Battle Park. Now, the result, a high-impact collision with the bridge's structural girders. And with those guiders there, that was what police called significant damage. And that was to both the equipment and the bridge itself. Now, fortunately, there were some crews on site already doing some other work, and those crews were from Volker, Steven, and ACOM. They were working on the other parts of the bridge and close by areas, so that allowed to at least expedite the evaluation of damage and to put up some extra supports. Now, the traffic, of course, was immediately shut down in both directions for the initial safety assessment. The engineering crews, as I said, were already on site for a separate, unrelated rehabilitation project, were able to begin that work almost immediately. Now, as that continues, Mr. Sanchez of the department said that we are thankful no one was injured during the incident. We are also fortunate that the engineering crews were already working on the bridge and on site immediately to assess that new damage. Now, by yesterday evening, crews had installed the temporary support pillars, allowing the truck to be removed. But those pillars remain a stark visual reminder of the bridge's compromised state. Now, of course, city officials are saying that the full extent of the damage, along with potential costs and repair timelines, are still unknown at this time, and they are undergoing the complex assessment. As that continues, we will keep you updated on it. Now, in terms of the investigation into the structural integrity, that will continue, but in the meantime, the Lethbridge Police Service have concluded its initial investigation into the cause. The driver of the semi-truck has been charged with failing to ascertain sufficient space for movement. Police say additional charges are pending. For drivers, the impact is immediate. The city has reopened several access loops to improve the flow, but a zipper merge is now in effect for westbound traffic, creating significant bottlenecks during peak hours. Road Infrastructure Manager Richard Berman says that the focus is now on providing the best and safest traffic accommodations they can, given the new circumstances. So let's really understand that with this temporary change that's in place, you'll want to try to make adjustments to your travel patterns. If you're able to use alternate routes or to adjust your timing, you want to try to avoid the peak hours, both in the morning and mid-afternoon, to allow yourself to get through. And if you are insistent on going in that direction, of course, you want to allow yourself extra time for your commute. Now, as you look at that, we will, of course, keep you up to date, but the incident has also renewed public discussion about the need for a third river crossing in Lethbridge. City officials confirmed that the preliminary design for another crossing is in the works, but it's not currently scheduled to begin until 2027. The other concern, of course, is if one of those crossings was to be closed down, or even both, what alternates are available in terms of mass evacuations should there be any type of natural disaster to strike the city or even portions thereof. So again, it is not only about the structural damage there, but a much bigger picture about the flow of traffic and the accessibility or egress should there ever be a point that's needed there. Let's hope, though, that that's not the case. Now, as we take a look and shift from the crisis of infrastructure to a crisis in trade, let's go to a bigger picture of the new economic battle that's brewing between Canada and the United States tonight. The White House has announced it's raising tariffs on Canadian goods, a move that could seriously impact key sectors of the economy. As many of you know, I also work with and am an owner of ProPix TV and ProPix Canada Media. We also have an AI division, and at this point we are actually in the early stages of launching a major lawsuit against Donald Trump and the US government in relation to how they are using the tariffs to target Canadian companies, industry, and the protectionism of the US, which is against, in many ways, both the Constitution, U.S. law, as well as international trade laws, in which he is using it unilaterally against anybody that he feels that he wants to put levies and tariffs against. The U.S. government is initiating these tariffs on an unrelatable scale in the history of the world. It's really creating an unbalance in international trade and geopolitics, and it is frustrating because a lot of the countries impacted, as well as the businesses, cannot adequately plan ahead and make long-term strategy plans when they don't know the costs. Now, the impact, of course, in the media sector is very vast and wide, including the AI sector, where Donald Trump is limiting the ability and the desire of U.S.-based companies to partner or invest in foreign AI applications and development, which could have global impacts, whether it's the avian influenza, whether it is air traffic pattern, and any other area in which we're seeing AI implemented. It is a very big problem. But with that said, we're looking at the U.S. tariff rises against Canada specifically, and the new rate is 35% up from 25%. That impacts almost every item that falls outside of the United States or the America-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. With that, of course, we're looking at softwood lumber, we're looking at rare earth minerals, we're looking at steel, aluminum, and so much more, as well as the talk of the U.S. government about tariffs on the entertainment, film, and of course digital worlds. So we'll look into that a bit further as we continue the series on the film industry. But in any event, the impacts of the tariffs came into place today, August the 7th, 2025, and they are there for who knows how long, until Donald Trump decides to get out of bed in a better mood, I guess, because nobody really knows what his plan is. His use of the tariffs and his powers under the National Emergency Act, of course, are one of the things that pro-Pix Canada media will be challenging, because of the fact that he has used so many different excuses to implement the National Emergencies Act that it actually has no impact whatsoever, whether it's looking at the fentanyl or whether it is because Canada is looking at recognizing Palestine as an independent state. It really doesn't make sense because it's not a global tariff approach. There are other nations that have come out with the same stance as Canada when it comes to Palestine and a two-state solution, and yet they are not feeling the impacts of the retaliatory tariffs by Donald Trump at that point. So again, it really is not about any of the excuses that he brings forward. But in any event, as he ordered the tariff rate on U.S. imports from Canada to be increased to 35%, of course, the official reasons, as we say, have just done more. They just continue to fail to do anything in terms of his plans. Now, the crucial piece of context here is the sweeping headlines of the numbers that are being impacted. One of the bright sides of the tariffs is that Canada, of course, is one of many international tourism bases that has boycotted the U.S. The bright side is that Canada this year is actually looking at record numbers of tourist visits, as well as money spent. We're talking into the hundreds of billions of dollars for the Canadian tourism industry this year, and that will be an anticipated record that we've never seen before. So there are some slight bright sides to it, but at the end of the day, it is really an impairment into the trade of global commodities, products, and services. The other side of it is that Mark Carney has announced this week that he will be making significant investments to try and assist the different industries that have been impacted by these trade tariffs, including the softwood lumber industry, which is really something big in the western part of Canada for the industry there. Now, as I said, we're looking at different areas in which the Prime Minister is acknowledging the industries like lumber, steel, and auto are being hit hard, but found the government will work to minimize the impact. Some of those, in summary, are, of course, the $700 million that he's guaranteeing for different industries and businesses in terms of loan guarantees. $500 million that will be set aside for market diversification, and $50 million for worker reskilling. And that would be for retraining of those employees who are losing their positions due to the tariffs and the different regulations. Now, of course, the softwood lumber, as I said, is squarely in the crosshairs of the U.S. government, but the Canadian federal government is announcing those major support packages. As I said, they include the $700 million guarantees for loans, the $500 million to help industry find new products and new international markets, and $50 million for employee retraining. Now, this should be a very clear and decisive message for the U.S. that Canada will look to other markets. We are not going to be held hostage and have the terms dictated to us. We are a sovereign nation that makes our own trade policy, and we will not allow Donald Trump to do that on our behalf. So what does it mean for the Canadian citizens and their wallets? Well, Of course, we are still seeing higher prices on consumer goods, and we are seeing some layoffs in the different sectors, causing, of course, family budgets to be restricted, and, of course, the future for many Canadians being thrown into question, even though they may have been working at a job for years and had that job security. It may not be there any longer. So again, we will keep an eye on this story as it continues. Now, we can also take a look at the current news from Ottawa as well in relation to Mark Carney is meeting with Métis Nation at the Canadian Métis Summit. The summit focuses on Indigenous partnership in major infrastructure and resource projects under the new Building Canada's Act 11. Now, with that, of course, they are meeting with people such as the Métis government president, Andrea Sandmeyer, who represents more than 73,000 citizens in Alberta, and her message to the Prime Minister was very clear. She went on to say that the Métis have always been partners in building this country and must be involved as government-to-government partners in building it up again. In a statement, President Sandmeyer also called on the Alberta government to be a true partner in this work, not just when it's convenient, but when it counts. So very big words, very strong words, but also a very positive move to ensure that as we build up our infrastructure and our international trade, of course, we need to make sure that all vested parties are involved in the conversation, the planning, and of course, the economic benefits as a result. We are looking, of course, at the One Canada economy as well. Now, the goal is to reduce the federal red tape and regulatory barriers that make it difficult for businesses and workers to operate across provincial borders. The government is holding roundtable meetings with industry and labor groups across the country over the next month. The government says eliminating these internal trade barriers could add up to $200 billion to the Canadian economy and lower prices on everyday items for consumers. So a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. We'll, of course, be looking at this, but also it's got to have the buy-in by the industries, by the corporate and other government regulators, and, of course, the provincial level. Now, as we continue on, let's just give a shout out. As you see here on my hat, we have a sponsor, Kerry Movers, Western Canada's top long-distance moving company. They are family-owned and operated. And, of course, they've been serving Western Canada for long-distance moves for over 20 years. We'd like to thank them for their support of this program. You can find them online at www.carrymovers.com. That's K-A-R-Y movers.com, where you can get free quotes for your long-distance move needs in Western Canada. Now let's jump over to the international world as we hurry along in our headlines to get to our top in-depth stories. So Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said today that Israel intends to take full control of all of Gaza in order to destroy Hamas. He said the goal is to remove the threat and eventually transfer administration of the territory to a friendly Arab forces. The statement comes as Israel's security cabinet meets to vote on a full reoccupation of the Gaza Strip, a move that would be fraught with diplomatic and humanitarian risks. Of course, we know that the humanitarian aid and the humanitarian workers are finding many challenges at the hands of Israel in order to get to those most in need in Gaza and other parts of Palestine. Now, let's move on to take a look at the, of course, White House and Kremlin officials having indicated that face-to-face meetings between Trump and Vladimir Putin could happen as early as next week. The potential summit would focus, of course, on finding a path to end the war now in its fourth year. The United States says as an investigation is underway after a shooting at a major military base. Now, of course, this is unrelated to the meetings that we anticipate happening between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. But of course, this is very important because there are a lot of the geopolitical and military, discussions that are taking place that are frustrating a lot of people. And unfortunately, some people with, let's say, less stable minds tend to take it out on those on the front line instead of the politicians who are making decisions. If you're going to take it out on politicians, of course, it should always be in a diplomatic, democratic, and peaceful way. Create different online petitions or marches in your cities, but never resort to violence. And the sad point is that, of course, officials from Fort Stewart in Georgia say 5 soldiers were injured yesterday when an Army sergeant allegedly opened fire with his personal handgun. The alleged shooter is in custody, and the motive for that attack is not yet known. So again, we need to really try to support those who are going through the struggles of mental health and uncertainty in today's world. We don't know what caused that shooting at the military base, but again, there's so much upheaval and frustration at all levels that, yeah, it's going to be sad no matter what the results of any investigation are, because of course lives were lost and families of course will never be able to come back from the losses that they suffered. So our thoughts and our prayers go out to all of the people that were impacted by the shooting, and of course all military members around the world serving, whether it's on home soil or abroad, to bring peace. Now, let's take a look also at a couple of other quick stories before we move forward. Yes, the city of Lethbridge is moving towards a massive upgrade to its water treatment plant, and that's thanks to significant funding boost from the province. The first phase of its upgrades is a $67.2 million project supported by a $9.2 million grant from the government of Alberta. The project includes new high-capacity clarifier and major electrical upgrades to ensure the plant can operate smoothly even during unexpected problems. The plant currently serves more than 133,000 people across 10 southern Alberta municipalities. In a statement, Mayor Hagan called the investment a major win for the community, noting that it protects our water supply and supports future growth for residents and, of course, the region's vital agri-food sector. The best part for the homeowners, the mayor confirms that there will be no increase to residential water rates for this phase of the project, and construction is scheduled to begin later this month. So, folks, we could look at many other stories coming from the Lethbridge area, from Alberta, from BC, Alberta, everywhere. But, of course, we would run out of time long before we're ever able to get through the show and all of the stories. So let's move forward here, ladies and gentlemen, with our big feature. And that is part 1 of 3 parts, where we're going to look at the film and television and, of streaming production industries in Canada and the US. Now, we know that there is a great correction going on within the industry, and of course, it's making it more challenging to navigate the new realities of global film and television production in 2025. Now, the new epoch would be the global media landscape being in flux. Yes, the global film, television, and streaming industry has entered a new and challenging epoch. The period of unrestrained growth fueled by low-cost capital and a relentless drive for subscriber acquisition has definitively ended. In its place has emerged the Great Correction. Yes, a profound structural transformation defined by a pivot to profitability, operational efficiency, and strategic consolidation. Now, this is not a simple what we would traditionally see as a cyclical downturn, but of course, the fundamental recalibration of the industry's economic and creative models. This shift is not occurring in a vacuum. It's being shaped and accelerated by formidable global headwinds, including a volatile geopolitical landscape. And we'll just double check our messages here, folks. Sorry about that. We just got to make sure we're not missing anything from our subscribers and our followers here. So the shift is not occurring in a vacuum, and it's having a major impact on the global film and television production industry. A lot of different regions are looking at making adjustments when it comes to how they market themselves, how they introduce new services, and of course bring together the film industry from all of the different regions in an area where they are actually still competing competing against each other to attract those productions. Now, as I said, we're going to take a look at this industry in depth over the next 3 episodes. And tonight we're going to kick off with speaking to the Mountain View Film Office representatives in Alberta. Yes, what are they doing to try and attract more productions? They have been very successful in setting up their new film office over the last several years and attracting productions, and it seems to be on an upward trajectory, which is good news for Alberta and the Alberta economy. It also allows the different regions to showcase the beauty of the regions, whether it is the foothills or the mountains. It brings a lot of attention to the community and hopefully is going to also play in attracting a lot more tourism-related dollars as a spin-off effect of the industry. Now, I think that we will take a look at our segment here where we pre-recorded this interview, just so you're aware, but I will be watching the chat boxes and watching for your comments. Feel free to add them as you wish. So let's go ahead and take a look at this video with the representatives from the Mountain View Film Office in Alberta and their concierge-style. And John Allan from the Mountain View Film Office in Alberta. Yes, if you are looking for amazing scenery, and not only that, of course, very well equipped and just amazing crews, don't forget that you can look at Mountain View, and they are here to discuss the region and also the amazing steps they've taken in an original way to bring film to the area. So good morning, guys. Welcome to the show, or I guess evening. We're recording this segment for the live feed, which will be tomorrow night. So if we refer to morning, by all means, for our viewers, just go with it. It's all good. Good morning, guys.
Good evening.
Yeah. Hi, James. Thank you so much for having us.
My pleasure. As we know, you guys have been doing some unique things. So why don't you tell me about your film office and what exactly you've got going on? I understand it's like a concierge setup for the film industry.
That's right. Alexa.
Yes, we are 3 communities that banded together, collaborating for unique film locations. We're complementing each other with what we have to offer. So it's the town of Didsbury, the town of Sundry, as well as Mountain View County. And of course, it is like the Prairies to Peaks offerings. Plus, Didsbury has, for example, the red brick buildings, and we have a lot of locations within town that cater to a variety of scripts, such as the 80s genre, for example. And then you have the town of Sundry, of course, with more of a really small town and having more of like the mountain view the mountain settings, and also like the Western style, for example, which is really catering to a lot of independent movies as well. While Didsbury is also catering to the bigger productions, I would say. So right. Surrounded by the Mountain View County, of course, that offers a lot of different landscapes in addition to our little towns.
Excellent.
Our region is really fantastic, actually, because we have this great topographical variety. So you have everything from like the bald prairie in the far east of Mountain View County to the foothills in the west, and we have relationships with area municipalities around us. So beyond just the partners that founded the office, so Sundry, Didsbury, and Mountain View County, we have these relationships with area communities and municipalities like Clearwater County, Olds, and others that we work with to create an even broader reach of locations potential, I'll say. And the nice thing about the Mountain View Regional Film Office is that we are the closest rural film office to Calgary that qualifies for the rural filming tax credit top-up that can bring a tax credit up to 30%. We're also the only rural film office that is home to a 20-foot tall green screen and a sound studio. And, it's the probably one of the best regions to film because of that breadth of topography, like I was saying.
And of course, we know that you've got amazing crews there and talent there as well, and it's almost untapped in terms of the talent. So, as opposed to say Toronto or Vancouver, where you're getting a lot of the same on-screen talent, say background and special abilities, the different roles that way. Of course, you're getting a fresh pool of faces there in the region that are very unique.
Yeah, we're trying also a lot
about, or what do you say to your local businesses and your residents in terms of welcoming the film industry? I guess they must be kind of excited because they're not burned out like some of the other locations around the world.
I think our communities are always very excited when we have the film industry coming into town. They right away are also usually asking, can they be extras? Can they, how can they add to the production? So they very exciting to see the productions coming in. It doesn't matter how big or small they are very welcomed.
In Sundry, I can tell you right now that there's a huge amount of community support, because not only do they get the fun, I'll call it, associated with maybe witnessing a production, perhaps engaging as a background actor, an extra, or they also have the opportunity to promote their actual locations for production, which means they can generate some revenue, and then they get some bragging rights, I suppose. So, the film industry has actually been very beneficial to our local museum. So the museum itself is home to a pioneer village that is, it's got a number of historic buildings, pioneer style buildings right in our historic Riverside area. And it's really a great location. It's almost like a makeshift backlot, if you will. And a number of productions, like the productions that have begun to come to Sundry, and we're still just a burgeoning location for locations, but those that have come have almost all ended up migrating their way to the museum because they have such a great variety of buildings that they can use for whatever type of film that they are doing, especially if there's a Western flair or historic kind of element to it. And then I can tell you a little anecdote. There was a production that was done here a few years ago, and just as sort of an anecdote about the support for the industry in the area. Just a few years ago, there was a production that was a pilot that was being done, and it was during COVID, and we helped, as in our community, our municipality worked with the production to host a casting call because they were looking for extras and all this. And so we ended up organizing the casting call for them at an outdoor location. We have a gazebo on the waterfront that allowed for the critical distancing, during COVID and all that. And we ended up having like 200 residents show up for this casting call. It was, the media came out. It was this amazing thing. And it was just sort of part and parcel to the kind of concierge service that the Mountain View Regional Film Office can provide to productions and that kind of stuff as well.
Right. And I know that as an actor myself, I know that the locations are key to really setting the tone for whether it's motion pictures, whether it's a movie of the week or a series. And of course, even with the skyrocketing emergence over the last, say, 10 years of the streaming services, that it really, I know Alberta, I know it well, and I just am always awestruck as a visitor to the province or when I resided there, but just the beauty and the diversification of the industry in different segments of the province, but how the province also comes together, whether it's the International Banff Media Festival or other events, to really invite the world, not just the North American film industry, but the entire world, to really shine a light on Alberta and see the unique, as you touched on, the unique landscapes and the unique people, and just the welcomingness of the communities themselves. It's just such a friendly place to do the work. What would you say outside of the people and the landscapes, what would you also say in terms of your crews, in terms of your film office, and the cooperation at all the different levels? What would you say would be the single most beneficial reason why people would want to come and film in your area?
I think first and foremost is the flexibility that we have as small communities. So, for example, we were anecdotally again, we had the production Under the Banner of Heaven, and we had to dismantle our Christmas lighting in the downtown for 24 hours. So we can do that. And we're very accommodating. And I think the flexibility is one of our strengths, and being able to, they have someone to talk to at any given time. We are very proactive, but can be very fast in responding to the film industry's needs.
Right. I would just add to that as well. I know that the bottom line is very important nowadays. It's exceptionally important. Most productions are cost conscious because of the way the nature of the industry is evolving right now. And we are an exceptionally low cost area to do production. I mean, whether it be a day rate somewhere that is important that they would like to go, or whether it just be permitting. Permitting fees are probably, I think, the most competitive, I will say. I don't want to be too over salesy but I think that we are probably one of the most competitively priced permit jurisdictions for filming when it comes to filming, probably in the whole province, if not Western Canada. It's exceptionally convenient having Calgary so close. I mean, like I say, we are the closest rural film region to Calgary that still qualifies for the rural tax credits. Didsbury, you're only Alexa, you're 40 minutes maybe from downtown Calgary, something like that. And so it's really a convenient location. So the flexibility that Alexa says, and I think that's a fantastic answer, by the way, as well as the cost savings and convenience, and then there's the gamut of all the other reasons that people would come here. We have the actual locations that people are looking for, but combined with everything else, it's very much a desirable location. And we did see that desirability just recently when we were at the Banff World Media Festival, which is one of Canada's premier collections or conventions of filmmakers. You've got the showrunners, the producers, the directors, the people that are heavily involved with the actual making of the show, and they go to Banff, and we were, I don't want to say overwhelmed, but nearly overwhelmed with the amount of interest that we had because of the flexibility of our region, the actual locations, the cost effectiveness, and all this, the proximity to Calgary. Our calendars were full. I mean, with meetings, it was amazing. And so we've already had since then a couple productions reach out, and and productions are constantly growing from what used to be, in Sundry's case, nearly nothing. Like we did not have a film industry, and we are now growing it. I mean, it's amazing, So all these things.
And to be honest, I mean, besides our film area, I don't know why anybody would go anywhere else but Alberta, because we have it all.
Yeah.
And I live on the West Coast, so I won't come here for my acting, gigs.
The ocean, okay.
I'm always open to coming to Alberta. I love it there. And with that said, of course, you touched on the Banff International Media Festival, and of course, it is a premier event in Canada, but it's also just expanded and blown up over the last so many years to really bring in a lot of international productions. Now, the other thing that you touched on is flexibility and, of course, rates. I know that certain media offices outside of Alberta, and I'm not going to name them, whether, it's Canada, U.S., doesn't matter, certain offices, because they have had the luxury, as I say, to being such in-demand areas, they have really sometimes priced themselves out or had less flexibility to invite smaller scale productions. And I'm talking, not the huge blockbuster Hollywood Hollywood films, they kind of put aside and don't really put an urgency on assisting. So I think that is very unique as well, is that you guys, as we touched on earlier, it's like a concierge service where you were there to really cater to the industry and be a real active partner in the process, as opposed to just rubber stamping permits and...
Yeah, that's exactly.
And I mean, the affordability is really crucial to us, and we are really one of the, as John earlier said, one of the most affordable areas. And we're charging, like, for a low budget about $500. There's none for nonprofit, and $1,000, for example, for the bigger budget movies, and that includes like road closures and such. And of course, we charging some extra for rentals of town assets and things like that, and. We're just in process of aligning ourselves, because Sundry, for example, or Mountain View County, they just starting to actually streamline and feeding into the bigger strategy that we just put together, and the organization aspects, including, a fee structure. They just are about to be established, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
So another way, I think just to touch on that. So we just recently completed a strategic organizational development plan completed by Nordicity, which is one of the premier entertainment industry oriented consultancies in Canada, based out of Toronto. And so they completed our strat plan. And we as Alexis is saying, we're beginning to align now all of our policies. So because we are a intermunicipal tripartite entity, so three-party entity that is expanding in the future to other municipalities, I'm sure, we need to streamline everything so that when someone comes to our office, they basically deal with one single permit or one type of permit. And we are now in the process of having the negotiations on how that's going to look. Now, Didsbury already has a pretty great framework because they've been involved in the film industry for like 10 years longer than we have, with some really huge budget productions, very great, well-known productions that have come through Didsbury. And so they've got this foundation of experience. And what we are doing in terms of Mountain View County and the town of Sundry is working with Didsbury, using their framework of permitting and all this as a template, like I say, so that whoever comes into our region will eventually have a single permit that they have to deal with, low cost, mostly just based on cost recovery, as opposed to trying to earn extra revenue into general revenue. For us, it's about the big picture. We recognize the value of all productions coming here. It adds to tourism. It adds to our demand for a local workforce. It creates inward high value revenue over a short period of time to the locations that wherever they might be being filmed, for the extras, the cast and all that might be actually involved, who are local. And it creates a form of notoriety that puts us on a map. It creates awareness that we exist, and we are smaller communities, and we need to not just exist within Alberta, but we need to exist within the continentally, globally, even as a place to invest, as to visit, to live, et cetera, et cetera. And so from a Sundry perspective, from my perspective, as somebody who's still kind of in the early stages of being involved in the industry, and I recognize this, and I try to say that very humbly because I still have so much to learn, and we are very much still young in the industry ourselves. But we will work with any size production. I mean, we've had productions that have tried to come out here that are maybe 50 grand. If you are interested and you have a $50,000 budget, come see us. We will work with you, because as far as we're concerned, that adds to our portfolio of productions that have come to our area. It provides us experience as it provides you with experience. And, we've, since doing that, we have begun seeing a steady increase in the, like if there was a line graph, you'd be seeing an increase in the size of the budgets coming to our community. And it starts from somewhere, but we don't discriminate. We will work with you. We will act as your location's scout if required. We will do whatever you need. Send us a shot list, with all of your wish, like your wish list, so to speak. And we know this area very well. And we have the relationships with cast and crew that are beyond just our region as well, that are able to come to our area. We have relationships with other services like the colleges and whatnot that might have their film studios there, or film students and whatnot that can be tapped into. So we do provide quite a value add concierge service despite any size, and we're willing to do this because of the net economic benefits regardless.
So we started really that part to diversify our own economy, and I mean the film industry really caters to a investment attraction as much as it caters to a business retention, because the film crews and the productions, they use our businesses as well. So this is an important component for us.
Well, and I think that's a really important point that you touch on is is not just the direct spending, but the spin-off spending to the other industries throughout your region, and whether that is the small mom and pop restaurants that may be providing catering to the films. Just it really brings a totality to a community that everybody can almost feel like they are a part of something that's going to be showcased around the globe. And I think that that's beautiful. And when it comes to your community, how would you say that the actual financial impact is assisted with your annual revenue there?
I think in terms of business retention, let's say, for example, Under the Banner of Heaven, that was there for a few weeks. I mean, the economic impact was about $600,000 as it was reported also by the production company. And this money is basically it's covering, some of our businesses that were inconvenienced due to the production. The production companies, especially the bigger budget film productions, they're quite generous to reimburse the businesses. Their mom and pop businesses. They cannot just close down and say like, "Yay, just film." But they've been really appreciative of what they've been provided with, but also the fact that the film industries come pre-production as well as during the production to utilize any of like the eateries, any retail, what they need, including like the hardware store, for example. And there are quite a few businesses that cater directly to the film industry as well that will be utilized.
I don't have much. I mean, everything she's saying is quite on point. Sorry to interrupt. It's just let's say from an ROI perspective, our municipalities, with sometimes grants coming in, but our municipalities effectively are the primary funding mechanism for the Mountain View Regional Film Office. We are using our economic development office budgets to maintain and grow this office with some grant support and with future plans to generate revenue from other sources. But, the ROI is there. I mean, we have only been doing this for about, I don't know, we launched 2 years ago. That's what it was. 3 years, a year before that, we got it going. We started the process, but in, let's say, 2 years of being existent, we've had a multifold increase in terms of dollars spent into our community from films that otherwise probably would not have come here because we did not have an existing industry to promote effectively. Right. And so, it's in terms of direct economic impact, the ROI is there based on our departments and what we spent and all the money being spent locally at all the various businesses and such.
Well, I think that another beautiful thing about your region and Alberta as a whole is not only the incentives that the provincial and federal governments are looking at, but also the opportunities in terms of education, because we've seen film departments in your post-secondary institutions really expanding over the last 10 years as well. Whether it's Calgary, whether it's Edmonton or elsewhere, that the schools have really expanded their studio space for the students and given them that ability to really jump into the film industry at the highest level and to compete with those around the world in terms of crews. How would you say that is an invitation to people who are tired of the big city here here in the West Coast with the high cost of living and the stress. And, you know, you mentioned about being 40 minutes from Calgary. Well, you know what? That's trying to get across one bridge in Vancouver during rush hour.
Yeah.
So I think that the world, in terms of them understanding how far that Alberta has come with the crews as well, and the future talent that you're turning out. Are you finding that a lot of people are really excited about where you're going so they can stay within their home province instead of having to go to the hubs like Toronto and Los Angeles, Vancouver, New York, and so forth?
Do you mind? So basically, I can say that, you know, whereas the national industry itself last year kind of saw a bit of a decline, Alberta's grew. And in fact, since 2017, I believe that we've had a growth in our Alberta workforce of over 4,000. There has been a growing workforce in our province because of the support directly toward the industry. And yeah, it's not just an anecdotal. Yeah, I think, you know, whatever. There's genuine empirical evidence that shows that the crews are moving here because we are becoming one of the growth nodes for the film and TV industry in Canada, despite potential declines elsewhere. Alberta is still growing. You touched on being proximity to Calgary. Calgary has one of the greatest quality of livings in the world. It's affordable, it's safe, it's beautiful. Don't ask about winter though. And no, I'm joking, but it's and then we've got communities like Didsbury, only 40 minutes away. Superb quality of living, right on the highway too, direct shot right into downtown. Sundry is just over an hour from downtown Calgary, a little bit further than Didsbury, but we're right in the foothills. I'm from Toronto. And the quality of living out here is superb. We have mountains, trees, you know, glacier-fed river that runs through our town. I see deer every single day. It's unbelievably beautiful. And just like you mentioned, you know, it takes 40 minutes to cross one bridge. In Toronto, it takes an hour to go from Toronto to Toronto, is what I always joke about. And so what the heck is living? It's not a big deal. If you're in Sundry and you're got to go to Calgary, I mean, at least this way you can throw the cruise control on instead of being angry at the person in front of you. So honestly, it's a great place to live. We have a very robust trades environment out here as well. So many of the crew that are trades oriented, they can and will work for productions, you know, depending on the paperwork with unions and such. And we have also a very capable Emmy Award-winning post-production environment out here as well. So even though our region is still, like the Mountain View Regional Film Office is still growing in terms of some of that post-production and whatnot, we have the relationships with the entities in Calgary, which has really near proximity to us. It's there's no better place to go than Alberta, and we are at the forefront of that, being that you can take advantage of these credits and you have the cost effectiveness and a variety of locations potential with a green screen and a film studio. 20-foot tall green screen and soundstage that you can actually use in our rural area. The only one outside of Edmonton or Calgary as well.
And adding on to this, I mean, this is a private venture that is running this production studio. And they also have a touch and event center. And it's a little bit of a Western style event center that can be modified to the production's needs. But, you know, they have offices for post-productions, and they are collaborating with the bigger entities in Calgary as well. I think we are complementing like the big cities with what we have to offer. A lot of times, if Calgary is I would say, fully booked, we have availability at this point in time.
Excellent. And I know that it's not just the Canadian productions that are looking to the Mountain View Film Office for assistance. You guys are hosting some really big names in the industry and some of the biggest studios and production companies that are interested. And we know that down in the U.S. right now, there's a lot of questions within the industry. Los Angeles and California with Governor Newsom is really getting aggressive in terms of their tax credits that they want to really really bring back the Los Angeles film industry. They've lost a lot of ground from back when they were the golden age of the studios. Now they're kind of just the home base where there is so much travel. There's film productions going on in major cities, but there's also remote crews that are going out into areas such as yours to bring in certain segments of a series. And I think that's very important. But also in terms of the international community, people are looking about, well, do we want to go to Georgia? Do we want to go to Iowa? Do we want to go to Montana to film these things when we can go to Canada, have maybe a bit friendlier of an opportunity in terms of immigration, permitting, all of that. So how does your office help the international community when they're coming in terms of processing paperwork and understanding and navigating the world of coming to Canada to film as an international production?
I think a lot of times, pretty much all of the productions go first to the Calgary Film Commission, and they usually feed down to like the different locations as well. But we trying to promote, even like when we were at the Banff World Media Festival, we promoted Mountain View Film Office and our website that is translated in 5 different languages, and mountainviewfilm.ca. That has a gallery for videos and imagery and everything. I think it is the exchange rate is still pretty good. We still have the flexibility, and the red tape pretty much is way less than potentially anywhere else. And I don't know how it is down in the States, but even like the difference between the bigger cities and our areas, there is a big difference in terms of permitting.
So I know that we're not going to do the paperwork for them, but we will help them identify what is available and how they might do it. And we'll put them in contact with the Alberta Film Commission, for instance, that can guide them through what I'll call subsidy regime, which is really the film and TV tax credit regime.
Right.
We do have quite a competitive film and TV tax credit environment. It could be improved. If I'm going to be perfectly honest, for those people who are listening, it can be improved, but it's really great, and it covers the full cost of production, where you get 22% if your budget is over $500,000, and it's not just toward labor. I know that in other jurisdictions, it's labor only, whereas in Alberta, it's the full cost of production that you can try to write off as long as you have an Alberta-based corporation. So there are a couple little minor hoops that do need to be jumped through. For instance, the need to incorporate in Alberta. There are some other caveats include about the IP and where the IP is kind of registered and this kind of stuff. But the fact that you can get a full 22% off all production value as opposed to only labor is huge. And you can actually save much more. So whereas, let's say in British Columbia, it's 28% or something like that, in Alberta, where it's 22%, you still end up saving more because you're going to have more to apply it toward versus just the labor, even though the percentage is less. But the percentage can be more, 30%, if you end up filming a minimum of 75% of principal photography in a rural area. And so that's where we come in. We provide the means and the ability for productions to be able to hit that 75% threshold easily because we are so close to Calgary. We have access to the crews. We have the we have the soundstage and the green screen that will allow them to be able to do that kind of filming in our region, a rural region. And we have all the extra services that we've already talked about that kind of make it worthwhile. So if we make it as easy as possible for these productions to come to our region, now they can hit that 30%, whereas before they might have been only able to hit a certain percentage and not qualify for the 30. So effectively, they're only ever really qualifying for 22. Well, now we're providing them a real ability to hit that 30% tax credit. And this Governor Newsom is trying to, reshore production back in California, and that's great. Obviously, every region is trying to to bring productions to their home area. Like you said, Georgia, it could be anywhere. I mean, there's global subsidy wars, quote unquote, that are going on right now. And we don't want to have a race to the bottom. But what other jurisdictions don't have is our low cost environment, the dollar differential versus the US dollar, which allows for itself savings, as well as an exceptionally trained and qualified workforce with some of the most epic, beautiful locations that you'll ever set eyes on. So honestly, we have nothing but growth in our area and growth potential in our area because of these various factors. And we will be there to help them understand this environment as much as possible, and we will put them in contact with the Alberta Film Commission and other commissions when we don't have the answers.
Right.
And I think I should mention,
go ahead, Alexa,
James, I was just wanting to add that we work with all of the entities that are in Alberta from, and we're getting closer together as a team in Alberta, catering to the film industry, from Edmonton Screen to Calgary Film Commission to Lethbridge Film Office, and Keep Alberta Rolling, of course, and the Alberta Film Commission as well. And I think, for us coming together and really catering to the film industry is a major advantage as well. So the industry really feels taken care of,
right,
and supported.
What would you say to maybe your local community or people outside the community that are really interested in entering into the film and television workplace, but have absolutely no experience? How would you address that for people maybe moving to your community or who have spent their lifetime in your community? How would you guide them in terms of entering the industry as juniors, we'll say?
I think as we establish, for example, stronger ties with the post-secondary, such as SAID, Red Deer Polytechnic, or Olds College, and Bow Valley College as well has a department for film as well, as far as I understand. I think we would point them to the educational institutions, and also saying like, hey, we are really close. You can live here in our community. We have a lot of productions coming in, so you can put whatever you learn to work easier than maybe in the bigger areas. And there's always casting calls and whatnot. But we're also catering to the industries that are catering from a tech perspective or anything that they want to cater to the film industry, supporting those industries and say like, hey, we're trying to invest in attracting those type of investments rather, and see what is possible, and growing capacity within our area for the film industry on every level.
So, and I would just add to that, Alexa, like the education is huge. I would also add, as much as people might think that it's too simple an answer, but I was just going to say networking, like go to the events and meet people. It also depends highly on what their expertise is. Like, are they involved in the crew? Or are they wanting to be on the casting side? Yeah. So if they're on crew, maybe it makes sense to reach out to some of the unions, but just go to the events, find out where these events are, pay the dollars to attend the event, and introduce yourself. Work hard to try to get an IMDb credit, just so you have a little bit of legitimacy, even if it's the smallest one possible. Just get something up there, create an account at the very least with IMDb. Maybe ingratiate yourself with some of the unions or whatnot. If you're casting, reach out to if you're cast, reach out to ACTRA. Also ingratiate yourself with some of the casting directors, those who make decisions on casting. You want to maybe make sure that they know that you exist. And, and if you're on the crew side, reach out, IATSE, that kind of thing. And just do the whole gamut. So education, IMDb, networking like crazy, and reach out to the organizations to support these various sort of professions within the industry.
And I want to add on that, again, going back to our website, we have a lot of those organizations listed on our website as well.
True.
So this is something.
Where is your website? Let's give a plug to the website, because we'll have it on screen as well. But let's mention it.
It's mountainviewfilm.ca.
Excellent. And for those, I always like to point out for any of the viewers that are watching in the Mountain View area or anywhere else, if you're looking to get into film, one of the beautiful things about this industry is that you can go in, you can get jobs, whether it's as a production assistant in different departments, you can get in as a background or what's known as extras, and it really gives you the opportunity to see the process, how a film is made. Excuse me, and sometimes the hundreds or thousands of people it takes to make something to go from a script on paper or even just a concept all the way through to the post-production and then distribution. So a great way for anybody that is thinking about it, I always suggest, get in, do a couple of days of background work, get in, do a couple of days as a PA, whatever the case is, because it really gives you that behind the scenes look at the industry and how it comes together. Whereas, maybe other industries, you can't just kind of get in and just be casually observing without making a long-term commitment. So I think that's very unique about it as well. And again, I think that there's such a huge upside with the aggressiveness to some degree of the Alberta, the whole province coming together and the provincial government helping the different regional areas to really expand in the film industry. It is still going through an evolution of change, whether it's AI, whether it's, the computer-generated graphics. And I think that as much as some people fear it, I think it's actually bringing a lot of new opportunities and new positions within the entertainment industry. And I think that that's where towns such as yourselves are really going to benefit, because it gives a whole new opportunity. And as you said, with that massive green screen you have there, that when they need to do inserts and green screens, chroma scenes and all of that, I think that it really adds to the invitation for new productions to come into your region. We know that there are co-production agreements for people that don't understand that. Within the co-production means that, for example, a production can be partially funded through grants or other opportunities within Canada and get the tax credits, but through co-production, they can work with a production company, say in London, England, who is, in partnership with the BBC or such. So they come together and they get the advantage of program or production funding from both sides and the tax benefits, while also building that international and global recognition and, of course, the networking, as you brought up, John.
That's right. And so, for instance, in terms of co-production, I believe that there's a healthy agreement with Korea. And Alexa, you and I can attest that we met with a number of producers at the Banff World Media Festival from Korea. And it's that networking, just that of course, that you're just touching on, that is essential to creating those relationships. We look forward to working with any production from anywhere of any size, just as to get that out there again. And Alexa touched on earlier that our website, mountainviewfilm.ca, also is translatable into five languages, including Korean. So, we want to work with producers from around the world, whether it be in Germany or France or India, or Korea, United States, wherever.
Yeah.
So.
Excellent. Well, we have pretty much run out of time for this segment here, but we will look forward to speaking to you again. Maybe we can touch base later in the fall and do a follow-up. And absolutely, we're going to also, of course, be showing some scenery of your region so people can get a taste and a flavor for what's there. And don't forget, even if you're not in the film industry out there, for our viewers around the world, there's always tourism. You can just imagine, getting on horseback and exploring the foothills, going up into, the mountains and along the rivers. There's just so much to explore and experience outside of just film, because it's so welcoming there. And I want to thank you both for being on the program.
Thank you.
I would like to just kind of give you an open forum here. If there's anything that we have not had a chance to touch on that you would like to bring up before we close off today.
The Mountain View Film Office area, Mountain View Regional Film Office area, is a great place to film. You know, we would welcome any size production. It's whether or not you're just getting started in the industry, or whether or not you're going to be producing a multi-million-dollar epic. We are here to help you. We are the closest film region to Calgary that qualifies for the rural tax credits. We have the infrastructure in the form of the soundstage and the green screen. And we have the beautiful topographical variety, which I mentioned earlier. It's just so beautiful out here. And, you know, you're mentioning right now, of course, the horseback riding, the horses, the rivers, the trees, the mountains, and the beautiful topography. We're also home to the greatest population of wild horses out here as well, which is really cool for people who like to go explore that kind of stuff. You know, and it's all catchable on film. It's all capturable on film, and we will show you all the hidden gems if you're working on a production. So let us help you. And you know that, of course, in Didsbury, Alexa can speak to about the beautiful red brick buildings that exist down there. The fact that there are so many different types of buildings in Didsbury that can replicate any sort of that can play the role of any sort of use, you know, whether it be a police station or a prison or whatever. You know, it's a very beautiful area, and we welcome you. And James, of course, thank you so much for having us on the show, and I thank you. And Alex, I'll pass it off to you.
There's not really much to add on, because I can only echo what John said. But Didsbury is also complementing like the film industry with more tourism, film tourism, with our scavenger hunt that we have that you can purchase online as well. That actually leads you through the town, teaches you about the history of Didsbury as much as, you know, it guides you through the various film locations. So it's a great fan-based, whatever productions we had. A lot of them at this point in time, we're always adding on and modifying it. But this is like the other side of the coin, where we're diversifying, capitalizing on our film industry and doing film tourism. So
Excellent.
Visit us, work with us. We are here and open, and we are the friendliest people. We are Albertans,
Yeah.
right?
And just
I'll
learn
agree
more
with
at
that, that's for
mountainviewfilm.ca.
sure.
Oh, sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, no worries at all. And yeah, it is a beautiful thing to see the growth, the economic development. And of course, we know that some people around the world may think of small towns as, being maybe a generation behind in technology. But you guys have really shown that that's not the case. You guys are up there with, the top of the top when it comes to technology, when it comes to the ability to adapt and to be flexible and to make it really come together for the productions. And as you said, whether it is a Bollywood production from India, or the K-pop from Korea, or the major blockbuster hits that we see not only in the theatrical releases but on streaming services. And yeah, you guys are really leading the way, and I think that you got to watch it though, because you're going to create a monster where other small communities are going to want to mimic and copy you guys, because you're going to be the leaders.
Well, we want that to happen though, because it creates legitimacy. The more productions that come to our province, doesn't matter where they are, most productions aren't only in one location. So we would invite all the municipalities, all the communities to do that. Because if they are successful at recruiting one international production coming here, then we all benefit, because that production will end up going to a whole bunch of different little communities. So let's all work together, and we would invite that. So anyway.
However, to add on to this, make sure you have the community buy-in for the film industry. This is very important. You cannot just say, hey, we're going to capitalize on that type of economic tool and inviting the film industry. Make sure you have the community buy-in. It can be quite an interruption, not only for businesses, but also for a municipality themselves.
That's true. When the circus comes to town, some people may not appreciate it. So make sure the community buy-in is there. That's a huge point. Yeah.
And believe me, when the circus comes to town, this clown has seen it all. That's wonderful. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to speak with us. During the next several weeks, we will be bringing on more guests. We have representatives from the Directors Guild of Canada. We have a representative from the Film Commission in Georgia. And of course, we'll have representatives from various parts of the industry and the trades from Los Angeles, from New York, from Toronto, and of course, here in my hometown of Vancouver. But hey, you never know. Maybe I'm going to have to take another look at the Mountain View community and relocate to relax a bit more.
Calgary area is very beautiful. We welcome you here.
Yes.
Well, at the very least, I hope to see you guys at the Banff International Media Festival next year. Happens in June. For anybody curious, check it out online. But even more important, if you are looking for a location to bring your international production or your domestic production here in Canada, the door is always open there in the Mountain View community, and reach out to the Mountain View Film Office. They are ready and willing to make your production a success. So again, thank you very much, John and Alexa, for joining us on the episode. We will look forward to having you back again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Once again, that was Jonathan Allan, the Economic Development Officer for the town of Sundry, as well as Alexa Ross, the Economic Development Officer and Strategic Operations Coordinator for the town of Didsbury, making up 2/3 of course, the Mountain View Film Office. They had some great information, and it was really nice to have them on the program. It is, of course, part of a series, so we will have more episodes coming up next Thursday and the following Thursday, again, 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, to look at the various impacts of the geopolitical climate as well as the global financial markets on the film and television production industry. Now, just to wrap this up, of course, this shift manifests a leaner production model that's coming forward, and it's characterized by fewer green lights for productions and a strategic focus on high-impact, financially sustainable projects. One of the big problems is, the geopolitical situation worldwide, whereas, of course, there is a lot of financing and an investment that comes from different international investment firms and so forth. So as the U.S. tries to isolate itself more and more on the independence of their film industry being produced in the U.S., it alienates some of those who are looking to invest from foreign markets. So again, we'll look at that as well over the coming weeks. Of course, the impact right now is being felt on the new normal, as we call it, in the film production industry. And to look at it, in the UK, they've looked at independent production companies dropping by over 70% and risking closure in mid-2025, and that's due to a decline in commissions and rising costs. So again, these are issues that we will delve into over the next several weeks. I'm James Cousineau, coming to you from Primetime Live for Jess FM and Jess TV in Lethbridge, Alberta. Once again, the Film Office, if you're interested for Mountain View, is mountainviewfilm.ca. Please reach out to them if you are looking for a suitable location that would be ideal in the Mountain View region. Beautiful area, from the rolling foothills to the mountains to pretty much anything else you're going to need. It is a beautiful region. Next week, we will be looking at others, and again, the following week. So again, we'll be looking at film in British Columbia and the Metro Vancouver region, as well as other areas of the province. And over the next several weeks, we'll also be looking at New York, Georgia, and Los Angeles, as well as the center of the universe, Ontario. Yes, I know I said it. But in any event, folks, thank you for tuning in. Once again, feel free to leave your comments below. You're also welcome to call in during the week via regular phone line and leave a voicemail that you would like us to discuss on the show, or if you have questions for any of the other film offices or in general about the film industry, please feel free to do so. You can call us at area code 368-997-6741 and leave a voicemail, and we will review the messages and, of course, touch on as many as we can in the following episodes. Once again, you're watching Jess TV and Jess FM, and I am James Cousineau for Primetime Live. We'll see you next Thursday, 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
Mm-hmm.